You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
We are slowly working through these to the best of our ability, and also excited because this weekend, actually tomorrow, marks the 1500th show of the Cabral Concept. So, it's been 4 years now in the making, and really being able to reach out and really move beyond my private practice in Boston, which is 4 years ago. I was in deep. A lot of people don't know this. I'll share this tomorrow. Maybe I'll share it on Monday. But that 4 years ago, again, I was in a practice. I was in it every single day. I'm still doing that today, but it's just very, very different. And I love looking back, and always just, obviously, I just really want to share with you my gratitude for getting to do what I get to do, and really how this community has progressed. We've come from, I remember 87 people in our private Facebook group the very first month. And now, we didn't open that right away, but 3.5 years later, over 8,000 people, no advertising, no marketing to promote that group, just really like-minded people at cabralsupportgroup.com. That's our free Facebook group that are asking questions, that are answering questions for each other, that are supporting each other. And it's just been a tremendous journey. So wherever you are on your health journey, your healing journey, whether you are a beginner, whether you're, moving through, you're already a couple months in, or you're kind of finding your answers and now you're working the plan, or whether you've already achieved your goals. I appreciate you. There's hopefully something here for everyone on the Cabral Concept. And my goal is that as you begin to learn yourself, that you begin to share that information, that you pay it forward to someone else in need, because this is not taught in schools. It's not taught by our primary care physicians. And it's certainly not taught in most families around the world, but we hope to change that. That's what this is all about. So again, thanks for being part of this ride. I'm sure I'll talk about this a little bit tomorrow, but tomorrow, episode 1500. So, okay, I'm going to dive right into today's questions. We always have a lot of questions in the queue. This week is no different. This goes back starting in January 8th. So, as we look at this, it's coming out on March 7th. So that means we're at February, we're at March, so we're about 8 weeks behind. So all that means is that if you submit your question for the house calls, it'll be answered somewhere about 8 or 9 weeks as of right now. We've been as good as about 5 weeks, as close as that, and as long as 12 weeks. So my goal, though, is to answer 5 to 10 questions every Saturday, 5 to 10 questions every Sunday, and simply, if you keep asking the questions, I'll keep answering them. So thank you so much. Let's dive into the show. First question from Traci. Is there a scientific reason as to why we should start the Fatlossity system and use for 21 days prior to a detox? Thanks so much. So no scientific reason. Well, I'll tell you why I have people do that. So keep in mind, the Fatlossity diet plan itself is many, many years old. We don't use it in the same way anymore. It's now a complete system, right? So we want it to be the exercise, we want it to be the nutrition, we want it to be the supplement protocol, everything, right? And if you don't know what Fatlossity is, you can just go to fatlossity.com, Fatlossity. You don't have to purchase anything. You can just read the information. It's like the Cabral Concept, like read, learn about why people plateau. So we've had a lot of experience with this. Honestly, it's been a long ride, a long journey. And for me, this year marks 20 years full-time private practice. So over that time, I've just got to see what works and what doesn't work. That's the truth. Starting out in my early 20s, I get to see, okay, like this is what everybody's doing. Yeah, it works pretty well. What if I do this? What if I do that? It's just doing that every single year and perfecting the processes that have always been here, but also then looking at Ayurveda, looking at TCM, like looking at all these different forms of medicine. Well, here's what we found. You want to put people on a really good nutrition plan, like the Fatlossity system, with the proper things to rebalance the body, and hopefully some good exercise, at least 10,000 steps per day. Now, the Fatlossity system, if you know about it, it's 3 phases. So it actually helps you work past all of your plateaus. Now, what we do in our body transformation studio in Boston, that we enable people to use the detox actually around the 12-week mark, especially if they might hit a plateau. And it pushes them to that next level. So it's not that you can't do the detox at the same time as Fatlossity. It's not that you can't do the detox first and then Fatlossity. But what we do is we strategically use it to help people also push past plateaus. So we do the Fatlossity system, 12 weeks. We keep going with Fatlossity, but then we do the 7-day detox, or you can do a longer one if you want. And then we get right back into it and we just keep pushing like that. So that's how we use that, Traci. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Jackie's up next. Hi, on episode 498, Anonymous asked about a little red dots on her arm. Dr. Cabral referred Anonymous to episode 464, where MariEllen asked about the raised bumps on her legs. I feel like these might be 2 different things. Is there any other episode where Dr. Cabral specifically talks about flat dots on the arm? Or could you give some information about the cause and possible remedy of smooth red dots on the backs of the arms that have been there for years? Thanks for all you do. Okay, well, there's a couple things. So, Jackie, I'm going to have you look up cherry angiomas because that's not what I believe you're talking about. What you're talking about is something called keratosis pilaris, okay? So, keratosis pilaris, and also it's commonly referred to as chicken skin. So, you can look up either one of those. You'll see images, and I'm pretty sure this is the one that you're talking about. Essentially, it's keratin that builds up in the pores and typically found on, well, sometimes it's found on the top of the legs, the quadriceps, or back of the legs, definitely the back of the arms, and often the buttocks as well. So here's the thing, though. No one knows specifically how it's caused, but I'll let you know how we see it in our practice and oftentimes how we're able to help it go away. Now, it's most often found in people with more fair skin. I've also seen it associated more with the endomorphic body type. Now, they're more of the accumulators. So it would make sense. Like, that makes total sense to me. We also see it with food allergies and food sensitivities, especially with the sensitivity to dairy. Sometimes egg, not as often with gluten. I see different types of rashes with that, but not as much, but it's possible. So you can certainly run the food sensitivity test. You may want to run the Candida metabolic and vitamins test as well. Okay, but now what do we do? Well, there's one more factor. So some people say that it could be a vitamin deficiency, some zinc, but many vitamin A. So interesting when we look at that, right? I don't like to overdo vitamin A. I never do more than like 3,000 to 5,000 micrograms typically per day coming from food, as well as the beta carotene form of that. So that's the natural form. So that's how I look at it. Now, there's a time and place for 10,000, 25,000 IUs of vitamin A. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. That's why you don't want to overdo it. But it does boost the immune system. So some doctors will use it for short term with specific immune issues. So again, if you're under the care of a doctor, it's a totally different story. So I'm not telling you that your doctor's not doing something right for the short term. It could be helpful. But again, you don't want to overdo vitamin A. You don't want to overdo vitamin D. You don't want to overdo vitamin K. You want to overdo vitamin E. Those are fat-soluble vitamins. Okay. Keratosis pilaris. Here's how we can help with it. So you want to do a couple things. What I like to do is an apple cider vinegar scrub. That means you simply take a loofah or something that's able to exfoliate that area. And what you can do is you can actually give it a little scrub, okay? So you can scrub that area and exfoliate it. Other things that people will do is specifically steam the area, go in a hot sauna. You want to sweat. You want those pores to open up and you want to sweat out whatever might be clogging them. And then also coconut oil, you can rub this on afterwards, is really nice. And I've seen good results that as well. And that good results with that as well. That's because it is naturally anti-inflammatory. It's antifungal. It's antibacterial. So you're not really going to go wrong unless, of course, you have a sensitivity to coconut oil. And then that's a totally different story. So that's what we do. Rebalance the body. Look at food sensitivities. Look at vitamin deficiencies. You can use like the daily nutritional support. That will certainly support all of those. Then you can use those specific scrubs. Jackie, hopefully that helps. Okay, Carol's up next. I heard on the podcast that Dr. Cabral had suffered from Addison's disease, as I do. He alludes to his terrible illness at 17, but he does not go into detail about what it is. And I'm very interested to know if he was able to cure it and also if the detox would be right for me. Thank you. Carol, I've talked about Addison's disease many times, but of course, the podcast is now on episode 1499, right? So you can read all of these questions today if you go to stevencabral.com/1499. Okay, so here's the thing. it's outside of my scope of practice to say that I cure or treat or diagnose any disease. It's not what I do. The way that I was able to overcome Addison's disease is that I was able to figure out what my root cause imbalances are. Because remember, Addison's disease is just named after Dr. Addison, who coined the term for low cortisol output. Okay? So I don't want to give this disease power, because for many years it had power over me. And keep in mind, I was diagnosed with many serious illnesses. Type 2 diabetes is serious. Rheumatoid arthritis is serious. POTS is serious. Addison's is serious. Fibromyalgia, I had migraines, I had insomnia, I had debilitating allergies, I had low-level asthma. So there was a lot wrong with me, and the reason why there was a lot wrong with me is my immune system was literally shutting down. I couldn't regulate. So that's the neuroendo immune function. Carol, I would love you to read my book, The Rain Barrel Effect, and it will explain all of this, and it will tell you how to do the detox, even if you have a diagnosed dis-ease, how you could work with your physician if you'd like on this, and how you can begin to look at these root cause imbalances. So, it's not, you don't overcome Addison's overnight. You don't overcome Addison's in a month or two, okay? But you do over time. And again, I can't tell you that we're curing people with Addison's. What I can tell you, though, is that we know how to look for those root cause imbalances. We know how to look at unchecked inflammation, unchecked intestinal permeability, like I had, overgrowth of candida overgrowth of bacterial overgrowth, H. pylori. So how do you fix Addison's? Well, you fix all the things that I just spoke about. And then what is it for you? So I lab tested. And as I lab tested, I realized, I'm sensitive to almonds. I have a sensitivity to chicken. I have a sensitivity to this. And then I eliminated those. Okay, that's one thing that helped. And then I got rid of my candida overgrowth. And I got rid of my small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then I got rid of my H. pylori. Okay. And then I started to rebuild my gut. That's one part. So then I was able to say, okay, well, what else am I deficient in? Well, I'm deficient in magnesium. I'm deficient in B6. So this is what I did for me. I don't know what to do for you, but we will know what to do once we see those lab tests. And again, I can't recommend the big five enough. You can find all of these things I always chat about at equilibriumnutrition.com, which is our global functional medicine practice. Okay. Anonymous is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I recently got a semen analysis as my wife and I have been having a hard time trying to conceive. My results came back good, but this is from a Western medicine standpoint. Could you please let me know what the ideal ranges would be from a functional medicine perspective? The areas they reported on were semen volume, semen concentration, motility, and morphology. Also, can you please discuss some natural ways in which I can improve my results? For context, I have completed the Big 5 labs along with recommendations. I've continued on with a level 2 daily protocol with healthy eating and exercise most days. Anonymous, thank you for writing in. I believe I've answered this question before. So let's go to stephencabral.com/podcast. And I'm just going to type in our keyword, which is semen, SEMEN. And let's see what shows that we chatted about this on. So we talked about it on 729. Okay. This one is for low testosterone. Similar protocol, but let's go on. 834, we talked about that as well. On episode 1079, another house call, chatted about that. And on episode 1373, and that was on male ejaculation, which that's why there's a balance to this as well. So you want to make sure too that you are not having sexual relations too often in order to improve sperm motility, but at the same time, making sure that you do have fresh, good quality sperm. Now, how do we do that? Or semen, I should say. Now, well, first let's get to the first part of your question, which is where should you be within range? So for a lab test like this, it's actually going to vary based on bioindividuality. You don't have to worry too much about this. We don't have to know your dosha or your body type. But for most men, for these specific labs that we talked about, we don't want to be in the bottom 25%, but we do want to be in the top 75%. Okay. So you would look at the labs yourself, because these labs are actually going to change based on the lab that you run it through. They're going to have different ranges based on the lab, potentially. Many do. I mean, many do. So all we're going to do is we're going to look at that lab that you were given, and we don't want to fall within the bottom 25%. It doesn't mean that if you fall within the bottom 25%, that you can't still have good quality, healthy semen. You can. But what we want to look at is, can we be in that top 75%? Okay, then from there, I want you to think about three specific things. Okay, the first one's diet. we're going to follow more of what is called a anti-vata or a vata pacifying kapha-based meal plan, which actually means you're going to be eating a little bit more starch and you're going to be eating a little bit more protein. And this is vata pacifying. So some oatmeal you can do in the morning beside your smoothie. You can do, I don't know if you eat animal-based products, but that can help to a certain degree. You don't have to eat animal-based products for sure. And actually eating too much would actually be somewhat detrimental in terms of circulation and blood flow. So let's not go overboard there. But what I want you to do too is be careful with your exercise that you're not doing too much upright bite. So seated on a hard seat can actually affect, for some men, not all, their prostate as well as sperm and semen quality. Okay, and the last part is going to be supplementation. No doubt about it, we've seen amazing results with vitamin C, 1-2 grams a day or so, zinc, 25 to 50 milligrams per day, using a good quality omega-3. The B vitamins I haven't spoke about, so an activated B vitamin. And of course, I really recommend, obviously, Daily Foundation Protocol Level 2, but you've already been working with our practice. You did the Big 5, so you probably know about those already. So those are what I recommend. Just right off the bat, there is more. You can certainly use magnesium in the evening and adrenal soothe in the evening. That will help calm that parasympathetic nervous system, will help calm the sympathetic nervous system, get you into the parasympathetic, which is good for all anabolism and growth in the body in general. Magnesium and the adrenal soothe are great for that. So this is the place to get started. And Anonymous, hopefully that was helpful. Sabrina is up next. Sabrina is saying, hi, binge listening to the podcast for a month or so and learning so much. My family and I are nearing the end of our H. pylori protocol that was outlined in one of your podcasts. My mother has been dealing with candida issues for 30 years and has tried many diets and supplements with no lasting results. She is very interested in doing Dr. Cabral's candida protocol, but her concern is that she seems to have a sensitivity to oregano and olive leaf. When we did the H. pylori protocol with the essential oils, she had muscle and joint pain for a little over a month until she removed the oregano oil from her routine. Her concern is that she doesn't want to spend all of the money on the Candida protocol only to have a reaction to the oregano in the blends. Do you have a suggestion for how she should proceed? Thank you so much for your help, Sabrina. Sabrina, thank you for writing in and thank you for the thoughtful question. And I appreciate you going back, listening to those previous episodes. So we have something for everything. I mean, honestly, it's very rare that someone has an issue with oregano oil, but some people do. Some people have an issue with garlic. And so, okay, in one of our formulas, there's some garlic. So we substitute that out. So it's not hard at all. I shouldn't say that at all, but here's what we need to do. You need to find a substitute that's antimicrobial and antifungal and antibacterial besides oregano then. And so we would simply look, well, what would be a substitute for that? And there is a product, and we actually use it with a lot of candida overgrowth, and that's called citracidal. And so that's by Nutribiotic. That's part of our CBO protocol we use with people with bacterial overgrowth on top of the candida overgrowth. So, that's what we do right there. That comes from grapefruit and not from oregano. What I recommend, whenever you're trying to change one of our protocols that we know works, I can't recommend enough hopping on a call with one of our health coaches. Honestly, it's worth it. It's worth it to do it right, do it one time, do it right the first time, and then you're good to go. So, whenever you need help, honestly, equilibriumnutrition.com has all the products I just mentioned for Anonymous there with the zinc, the vitamin C. All these products are functional medicine based. You're getting the most absorbable forms. We focus on potency. We focus on purity. These are the products that I use myself, that I use with my wife, my family, my private practice. So you can rest assured they are what you need. So if you ever want to, you can just go to equilibriumnutrition.com to find out more about the private practice. But you can also email anytime you have a question about signing up for the private practice or applying for the private practice at support@equilibriumnutrition.com. Hopefully that was helpful, Sabrina. All right, let's do one more question. Anonymous writes in, hello, Dr. Cabral. What do you think about the treatment MariDry to reduce underarm sweating? I know sweating is good for detoxification, but I'd rather go to the sauna than soak through my shirts every day. Thank you so much. Okay, so MariDry, let's see if this is a aluminum-based antiperspirant, or let's see if this is exactly what that is. Local anesthesia administered to assure maximum comfort during the treatment. Temporary tattoo is used to mark the skin in preparation. The area is treated with MariDry, eliminating sweat and odor glands under the armpit. I've talked about this actually before. And on the podcast, it would be going back to, let's go back to StephenCabral.com, and let's just type in a keyword in the search box called armpit. And I bet I have one on sweaty armpits because I'd like you to go back and really review that show. Well, it looks like it's way back on episode 323, going back now, well, about 3 years, a little over 3 years. So why don't I give you an answer to this instead of having you go back? You can certainly listen to that show and many shows on excessive sweating. So the first thing you want to do is you actually want to look at, are you in the fight or flight sympathetic nervous system dominant state? That's super important because if we're just blocking the armpit sweat glands and you're sweating because your adrenaline's pumping or your cortisol's higher during the day and you have a higher resting heart rate, well, that's masking a symptom. And that symptom is saying, we need to get you in more of a calm state. Now, it might be, again, using something like the Adrenal Soothe, the full spectrum magnesium during the day, and it could be doing a deep sleep protocol at night. It may also be working on meditation. It might be calming the body, right? So we need to work on that from the de-stress protocol. But then some people certainly do sweat more than others. There's no doubt about that. But when we begin to block some of the main areas where the body sweats and remove toxins, remember, you have lymph nodes right under your armpits. You're meant to sweat out a lot of those toxins. If we can't sweat out those toxins, that can be a huge issue. So I would hate for this to come back and you end up with some type of adenopathy or growth of these lymph nodes because you're not able to eliminate toxins as well, or the body starts to retain more water or more inflammation. So I can't recommend it. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it and it's not the right choice for you. It's simply, if you are sitting across from me in my office, you are my brother or sister or family member asking me this question, that is the exact answer I would give them. Run the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Look at your cortisol-based output for the day. You can also run the minerals and metals test to see if there's a heavy metal issue, to also see if you are having an issue with electrolyte-based stress there as well. So again, that's what I would do. That's what I would recommend. Definitely, if you go back to stevencabral.com/podcast and you type in excessive sweating or anything like that, you'll find previous podcasts on this that go even more in depth. But again, I did want to give you a fresh answer. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. These shows seem to fly by. But for sure, tomorrow, episode 1500, come on back. I will chat with you then. Hopefully you're having an amazing weekend. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.